Hey everybody, this is my 125 we're looking at, and I just kind of spur of the moment here decided I'm going to do a little bit of work on it, so I figured I'd shoot a little bit of video while we move along. The thing I was looking at was my little teeny tiny red tiger lotus down there. See that? I had two red tiger lotus in this tank when I first set it up. The other one is actually planted right here in this sort of notch, right where you see that remains of that temple plant. It's kind of scraggly now. Any tank that has a gourami in it, it's a little tough to keep the plants in there looking good because the gouramis munch on them constantly. The Synodontis munches on the plants a little bit as well. But both my red tiger lotus died off fairly shortly after being put in the tank. And I was kind of surprised by that. They're pretty easy to keep plants. They don't need a lot of light or anything else. And someone suggested to me that sometimes they go dormant. They'll appear to die off and then they come back after a while. It's been a couple of months and I had honestly forgotten that they were in there. And then a few days ago I noticed these little sprouts popping up. And they are indeed little tiny red tiger lotus leaves. So what I want to do is give them a little more light. You can see it's kind of dark down there in the bottom of the tank. And if you look up into this Water Sprite, you can see why. So I'm almost the length of the tank now. I've got about a foot to go on this end. And then if we come down and we look at this end, I am almost to the other end. So I've got about a 5-foot spread on this one plant. And what I need to do today is get in here where you can see how thick all that stuff is and how densely packed all those roots are hanging down. That's all that new growth and everything in there. So we're going to get in there and clean a lot of that out and allow some more light to come through and get down there and light up those red tiger lotus. I'm going to get in here and thin out this end as well. Since I'm going to be in there, I might as well do it. So that's all I'm really going to do. I'll probably throw a water change on it while I'm in there working and do, 10% or something like that. Just since I'm in there, I may as well. So sit tight and I will show you what this all looks like when we get to the other side of it. Alright, here we are the following morning. I finished all this up fairly late last night, and I always like to give the tank a couple of hours to settle back down after doing any work on it. You get all the detritus and everything stirred up and floating around. And I like all that to settle out so the tank looks nice for the follow-up video here. So we are indeed the following morning. It's been, I don't know, maybe 12, 14 hours since we actually got in there and did the work. And I've just fed the tank. I just put some floating freeze-dried krill in there. And hopefully we will get to see the Ctenopoma being a little more active when we get in here and have a little closer look at the tank. So I did a water change of about 10 or 15% and I wiped the front glass down. That was kind of a standard water change procedure. But what I really did was get in here and remove a ton of this plant. You can see this end here is only that one main branch now. I found that there was actually two very large branches that went towards the back of the tank. One of them actually went behind my spray bar and went all the way down the length of the tank behind the spray bar and was really dramatically impacting the flow of the water. So I got in there and I cleaned all that whole entire side out. I cut two of the three main branches that went down that end of the tank. And this end, I did something similar. I cut one of the main branches in the back and then I thinned out a lot of the stuff that was growing in between the two branches that remain. You can kind of see I've got a branch towards the back and then I've got this main branch in the front. And there was a ton of stuff in between that was growing towards the center of the tank. You can see that Gourami's found one of those pieces of floating shrimp. So I thinned a lot of that out. I pulled a lot of those babies out and I pulled a lot of the stuff out of there that was just blocking all the light. I thought about trimming these roots back a little bit, but I decided not to because I really like the way those roots look. And I don't think they're really blocking light anywhere I need it. They actually provide my Synodontis with a lot of cover. He likes to hide in those roots and sit down here underneath this woodwork where it's a little darker during the day. So I'm going to leave that alone for him. The tiger lotus, you can see, is well lit now, so that should take off and start growing like a champ, and we should see some color start to fill in, and that should look pretty nice here in the very near future. The one final thing I did want to address, and we can stand back and have a look at sort of the whole tank while I discuss this one final topic. And that topic is the discussion of what I do with all of my, what I'll call my waste Water Sprite. I've had several people make comments, to the effect that I should be giving it away, or I should sell it, or I could take it to my local fish store and turn it in for credit, and that sort of thing. And all of these ideas sound good, but none of them actually are practical or feasible. I really would like to be able to just give it away or do something with it. I feel guilty about throwing handfuls of it away. I really do. My gardens in the yard, I used to feel guilty about just pulling up, plants that other people might have to go pay money for, and here I'm just throwing them away like they're weeds. And it's because the plants just grow over everything and the seeds get dropped, and I just have too many plants to deal with. And after a while, I just got used to the idea that you just have to mow over some of them or throw some of them away or whatever. This is a case, however, where there's actually people in the hobby that would like those plants. It's not that I don't have anybody that would want to take them from me. It's just that I don't have any practical way to distribute them to everybody. As far as selling them, I'm not going to do that because I pay my taxes and I do everything above board. So if I start selling products on the internet, as far as I'm concerned, that's a business. I have to start keeping track of my income. I have to keep track of orders. It makes my taxes a lot more complicated. And I'm really not, in the market to set up a new on-the-side business, in addition to the business I already run. So I'm not going to set up a plant sales business. As far as just giving them away, I don't even know how to go about shipping aquatic plants through the mail. I don't have time to do that. I would be getting so many requests from so many people. Again, it would be a part-time business of me growing and shipping Water Sprite to people for free. It's just not practical. I don't want to throw out there hey, stop by my house, perfect total stranger that I've never met before, and I'll be glad to give you some stuff. That's not practical either. I don't want people showing up at my house because they think they can get some Water Sprite out of one of my fish tanks. So as much as I would love to be able to just trim all these plants up and say, here you go, everybody, I got a bucket full of free giveaways, it really honestly isn't practical, or I would gladly do it. I'm not really concerned about making profit off of this or anything like that. That's just, that's not even something that crosses my mind. I would gladly give it away if it were practical to do. My local fish store, I've talked to them about it. They don't really need any. They don't really want any. They don't want to take a chance on getting anything that I might have in my tanks into their tanks. Fish are one thing, but they're going to stick to getting their plants from their, distributors, not from me. So that's not practical. I really don't have anything to do with it. And as much as it sucks, as much as I hate to do it, the only real option is for me to just trim the stuff out of there, treat it like it's waste trimmings, dispose of them, and let the plant start growing back in, just like it does out in my gardens out in the yard. It's just the way it works. So again, I do feel guilty about that, and I wish there was something I could do about it, but it's just really, really not practical for me to be able to actually do stuff with all of these plants I grow, short of starting another business, which, down the road, who knows what the future holds anymore. But as of now, I'm not really interested in starting a secondary plant growing business. So that's kind of my thoughts on my Water Sprite and what I do with all my excess Water Sprite. And again, I know that that's sort of bothersome to some people out there. I really wish there was something I could do differently about it, but it's just not practical. So hope you enjoyed this video. Hope that gave you a little insight into my motivation and why I do some things. And I hope you enjoyed the look at this fish tank. Please subscribe if you're not already. That way you won't miss anything else I got coming up. I do a lot of spur of the moment stuff like this, as a lot of you already know. Most of it I like to think is good stuff and worth watching, so if you're subscribed you won't miss any of that. So thanks again for watching this one. I'll see you real soon on the next one.